Lecture, yeah. Great, and third place, it's my great pleasure, actually, to another great pleasure, even more of a great pleasure than the usual great pleasure. Third place, Ruth Kozak, our volunteer and member of our community, with her story, fire dancing. So could I ask Ruth to come up and read it? Would you like to read your story? Please do. Wonderful.
Do you need it? Yeah, do you need your story? Yes, I have.
Oh.
And this is one that went wrong for me, called fire dancing. I should have known that my plans were in the hands of fate when I got food poisoning 2 days before my departure from Athens to attend a much anticipated performance of fire dancing in northern Greece. The pharmacist assured me that the box of capsules he prescribed would do the trick. Just to make sure, I bought a second box to take during the overnight train ride to Thessaloniki. The fire dancing takes place in the town of Langadas, a 40-kilometer journey. As I sat in a nearby park while I waited for the bus, a strange sensation came over me. I felt disoriented, dizzy, and lightheaded, strangely out of touch with reality. My senses seemed numb, as if my mind and spirit had completely left my body. I began to panic. I imagined the horrified reaction of my family in Canada when they learned that my body was found on a park bench in a foreign country. Alone and anonymous, I scribbled down information about myself on a scrap of paper and put it in my pocket just in case. 3 police officers appeared. I considered appealing to them for help. Instead, I took a deep breath, sipped some water, and told myself it was all in my imagination. It would be better to die in a hotel bed rather than on a park bench. So I got out on the bus, headed for Langadas. Langadas is a quiet farming community with tidy houses, rose arbors, and vegetable gardens. I found my hotel, the Lido, bought a souvlaki to eat, and went up to my room to sleep off the unsettling feeling I had. But even after I woke, the euphoric out-of-body sensations persisted. I went for a walk, breathing in the fresh, pungent air of the countryside. I felt strange, disconnected from reality, and considered going to the local hospital. First, I'd go back to the hotel, shower, and change my travel-soiled clothes. While combing my hair, I looked at myself in the mirror and noticed my eyes were glazed, the pupils small as pinpoints. Then I realized that the strange euphoria I had felt all morning must have been caused by the diarrhea medicine. A local pharmacist confirmed it. "You shouldn't have taken more than 1 box dosage," he scolded. I had overdosed on opiates. I wasn't going to die, I was just stoned. The instruction on the package had been all in Greek to me. That trauma taken care of, I set off to find the Anastenarades, the famous mystics who dance barefooted on hot coals and somehow miraculously never get burned. In Greece, the Orthodox Church considers fire dancing to be a pagan ritual, even though the initiates claim that their unswerving faith in God protects them from the fire. The fire dancing is performed every year on the feast of St. Constantine and Eleni in the Greek Macedonian towns of Ceres and Langadas. Although the church has ceased to heap fire and brimstone on the fire dancers, the ceremony is still secretive. I roamed around the town asking several locals where I could see the fire dancing. My question was greeted with a stern look and stony silence. Why such mystery, I wondered. Near the outskirts of town, I located the small Church of the Saints, but there was only a wizened crone dressed in black, solemnly tending the graves. No sign of fire dancers. A small midway had been set up on the roadside near the church with carnival rides, game booths, and fast food carts. Behind the midway, the field was cordoned off with a picket fence, and rows of wooden chairs had been set up. A group of gypsy women dressed in bright flowered skirts and colorful kerchiefs surrounded me. They smiled at me, their gold teeth gleaming. Puini Anastarades, I asked. Where are the fire dancers? Once again, my question was greeted with a typical lift of the shoulders, chin, and eyebrows, which translates, I don't know. Back at the Hotel Lido, I struck up a conversation with Mark, a Belgian photojournalist. He'd also spent a fruitless day searching for the fire dancers. He learned, however, that the fenced-off part of the midway was where the fire dance would be performed. It's held outside of town because of the church's edict, he explained. The presence of the carnival and gypsies gives the fire dancing more of a circus atmosphere, which is acceptable to the townfolk. Mark's detective work proved more fruitful than mine did. The next morning he located the Kanaki, the house of the Anastanarides, where a calf had been sacrificed as part of the mystic rites. The house was not far from the church, he said. The ritual dancing begins this afternoon, followed by the fire dancing. I set off toward the pastures at the edge of town, following the distant throbbing of drums to a low-roofed house with a long porch on which many people had gathered. I approached the house cautiously, not sure if I'd be permitted to enter, but I was welcomed into a large room where benches had been arranged around the walls for spectators. The sharp aroma of incense and beeswax permeated the air. At one end of the room was a table heaped with religious relics, ornate silver icons, and varnished paintings of the saints. As visitors entered, they lit slender beeswax candles and genuflected before the icons. In front of the altar table, the barefooted Anastaridis, both men and women, whirled and swayed as they danced to the throbbing of a big single-sided drum, a wailing clarinet, and the whining strings of a lyra. They circled the room in front of the table of religious relics. As they danced, they clutched icons and waved red handkerchiefs decorated with silver and gold talismans to ward off evil, and made strange groaning sounds which gave them their name, Anastanarides, which is derived from the Greek word anastagmos, meaning to groan. The mood in the room was one of reverence. As the haunting cadence of the music filled the room, a gray-haired elder carried around a clay smudge pot and drenched the participants and spectators with fragrant sage-scented smoke, similar to our North American Aboriginal ceremonies. These mysterious rituals began during the invasion of the Tartars, who swept through the Byzantine Empire, burning and pillaging. In a Macedonian town, a church named for St. Constantine had been set ablaze. Some parishioners went through the flames to rescue the priceless icons and were miraculously not burned. To the Anastanarides, the fire dance represents the triumph of good over evil. They believe it is their absolute faith in God and their ability to achieve a state of self-hypnosis that allows them to dance on hot coals and remain unburned, a truly an out-of-body experience. Outside the Konaki, a large crowd had gathered. Suddenly there was a commotion. A contingent of local police had arrived. Were we to be arrested for participating in a pagan ritual? No, the police had come to escort the fire dancers to the carnival site. A long processional formed. The spectators followed the Anastaridis down the country lane, accompanied by the musicians. Suddenly, as we trooped through the pastures toward the carnival site, ominous black clouds obscured the sky. A violent eruption of thunder boomed, and dangerous spikes of forked lightning crackled earthward. A deluge of rain poured from the black heavens. Within minutes, the road was churned to mud and flooded with rivulets of water. As the drenching rain poured relentlessly down, the Anastanarides, clutching their precious icons, ran for cover back to the Kanaki. I found shelter under the eaves of a farmhouse with Mark, the photojournalist. No fire dancing tonight, Mark laughed. Dino kaname, I replied with a lyrical typical Greek shrug. What are we to do? It was the hand of fate. I knew it. The next morning dawned bright and sunny. Once again, I spent the afternoon watching the initiates dance. Just as it had the day before, a crowd gathered. The dancers performed their rituals. The musicians played. And in the evening, a processional formed to parade down the country lane. Then, at exactly the same moment, as the Anastaridis left their Konaki, it began to storm. Once again, it seemed that the fire dancer's mystic communion with the saints had been squelched by an unseen power. Somebody up there definitely doesn't want this to happen, I remarked to a bemused black-robed priest who watched from under the shelter of his umbrella. He shrugged, lifting his chin and eyes heavenward. "Die Crema," he said. "What a pity." There was a smug smile on his face. Disappointed, I made my way through the downpour back to my hotel. I'd have to wait for another time to see the fire dancers perform. The only out-of-body experience that year was the one I'd had on the park bench in Thessaloniki.